Hello everyone, my name is Cornel Făculescu. I'm Chief Platform Officer at Pentalog, meaning I'm in charge with products and technology aspects of our group that essentially offers teams to our customers and was acquired recently by Globant. So we are currently moving from 1,500 employees to more than 27,000. We are moving from 8 countries to more than 30 countries. There's literally no project that we cannot do, no region that we cannot serve, or no technology that we cannot help you with. And by the way, I really encourage you, go check globant.com. There is also a very interesting event about business reinvent powered by AI. Yeah, so yeah, lots of fun stuff you can find on our site, Globant site as well. Now, getting back to the CTO Talk, why are we doing this? So the CTO Talk event was meant to stress our vision, our idealistic vision about the CTO role. So we have defined through many years of working with lots of companies and lots of technology leaders, CTOs, CIOs, what does it mean to be a chief technology officer, chief information officer as well? And we said we need a series of events where we are going to stress that vision. So looking from the idealistic perspective, there are several seasons there. You can still find them on pentalog.com, search for CTO, and you'll find the videos and so forth. Do enjoy. And then there is the reality, how real people doing the job are doing this from the trenches. This is why we invite people to share their experiences here. And what's interesting for us is to see the genuine answers in the way they see their implementation of the role, the CTO role. Now, that being said, half of the success of this CTO talk comes from a list of questions that I prepared. It's mostly the same set of questions from CTO talk to CTO talk. And the other half of the success of a CTO talk comes from the audience. So dear audience, please do use the Q&A module you have at hand and ask your questions no matter when, please, along the way, so that we don't have all the questions at the end. There will not be a dedicated Q&A session at the end. And I'll take them one by one as soon as I have an opportunity to ask my guest here. Now, thanks for listening to the introduction. We recalled what the CTO talk looks like. And now let's start the session. Vasile, please join the stage and tell us a few words about yourself and the great company you're working for.
Hi, everyone, and thanks, Cornel, for having me. So Vasile Putina, I've been joining Pentalog like 16 years ago. It was like almost the previous age. So with technology background, being development in many languages, and of course, passionate about agility, passionate about culture, people, and connecting everything with technology. Pentalog, who joined recently Globant, you said always something about it. I don't think we have to insist too much now. So we are usually focused on supporting our customers with all kinds of services to build digital products. Now it's even more and more interesting. We also have with Globant many solutions to support in these directions. So we have already existing product tools to improve the efficiency of our teams, to improve the efficiency of our clients. And a lot of them are built around AI. And that's a real direction we are insisting on. And probably we'll touch this topic today.
Not that much, because we are interested in the role. So we are going to ask you lots of questions about the role, not necessarily about global, but yes, please do check. There is an interesting event going to happen right now, soon. Business reinvent powered by AI. Check global.com. If someone can give the link here on the chat, that's going to be great. Now, getting back to the CTO talk, Vasile, how do you define the role of a CTO?
I know there are many perspectives, many definitions. I would take it from a service company perspective. So for me, the CTO is the one in charge of the governance of the provided services. Sounds maybe too simplistic, but for me, that's the focus. So first of all, we should take care of the service we define. Of course, the services we provide are related to the technology. So meaning, to provide relevant services, we should stay in touch with the real pain points of the business. We should stay in touch with the technology able to solve those pain points. We should be able to structure in the best way the service we're providing to stay relevant on the market. And we should ensure that all the capabilities inside the organization are well defined to support the delivery of those services. So that's why for me, saying it simplistic is the governance of the services we are providing.
Okay, let's dive into that. What's the hardest challenge for you in these responsibilities?
Finding a good balance, I feel it's always a big challenge. A good balance between the energy we are investing in staying relevant on the technology part, so learning more about the new technologies, and being close to our customers. So it's always important to keep this balance, and that's why from time to time I'm stop from my activities and check once again if I'm in the right balance. For example, now I feel like I have to shift more towards clients. So I'm working more with marketing, working more with sales team, going more to events, and going to do more go see with the existing customers. So balance is the biggest challenge because we have to connect the dots from many perspectives. It's kind of easy to lose the focus. And doing zoom out and checking once again the balance, that's for me the biggest challenge.
Interesting. Okay, you said go see, you said stay relevant. We're gonna get to that in a second, in a few moments. Now, let's talk about governance, because I think it's pretty rare when someone talks about governance in CTO Talk by default. It's usually me asking a question about, is that still relevant? And we define governance as efficiency and efficacy management. Like whatever we do, of course, there are policies, corporate policies and all that, but whatever we do, how well are we doing that? Okay. So why for you governance is important? Why is important for customers?
So what we have learned is that the biggest challenges we may face within a collaboration are related to expectations, to false expectations, or to expectations which are not well managed, which are in many situations based on assumptions done on all the cases. You see? So for example, some developers may assume that the business people imagine all the scenarios they have to implement in the product.
Yeah, right.
And the business assume that developers think about all the technical aspects, security, infrastructure, architecture, which are relevant for the product they are building. And in fact, that's why for me it's important to make explicit everything which really matter and put in place the right mechanism to check if we are really doing what we are agreeing. You see, it's just that pragmatic. So no futuristic wording around governance because it sounds cool. Governance. It's just
pragmatic
the pragmatic approach of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you say governance to people, how appealing is that for, I know you meet a new technology leader, so that you serve, you offer teams for them. How appealing is that for those people? The term governance and what comes with it.
Yeah. It's a bit from the same group of questions around agility and all those stuff. So they are used a lot in the last decades, so that I avoid using that from the very beginning in the first sentence. So I'm trying to address directly the needs, and step by step, when it's the right moment, I'm using or not the term governance, you see? Because
Okay.
as I said, the pragmatic approach is what's most interesting one. For me, it's important to be on the same page, to make sure that we do what we promise, to check that we are going in the right direction. And afterwards, if you want to put the right wording on it, it's cool. And if the person is ready to use the wording, if not, everyone is okay.
So yeah, very interesting. So in a sense, what matters is doing it, believing in
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do, not the wording, not the theory behind it. And if it works, it works and it's going to be appreciated. If it's called governance or not, who cares? It's just what makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like sometimes when we are using strong words like governance, or I said agility, or in many cases we lose time in debriefs about the term.
What
Do we
does it
have
mean?
the same definition or not? What does it mean? But at the end, when we really zoom in enough, we understand the same things. That's why we would better go directly and do important stuff.
Yes, great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, let's go further about the executive leadership and the collaboration with executives. What can you share with us about working with the C-suite, with executives, I know, in terms of the same from um, managing expectations, sharing, being present, time that you spend with them, being a translator and so forth.
Yeah. So by default, whatever we are doing in this regard, it's not enough. So I never felt like it's enough. And the target for me is to reach such a level when, even if you don't talk with some of them for a long period of time, you are kind of aligned by default, aligned on the values, on the objectives, and also on the more, operational stuff, on the ways to do it. And also it's about, kind of default trust. Of course, to make it happen, it's, worth investing a lot of time, spending together, talking, aligning, building stuff together, because for me, a strong team makes sense just if, you have a common objective and you do stuff together. It's not just about talking, it's about doing important stuff together. And of course, taking into account everyone's background. And when I'm talking about myself, for me, there are areas on which I'm kind of aware by default, and on which I go more easy and collaborate with the C-suite. For example, you see, if it's a topic more related to the technology part and so on, of course, I'm going easily to the CISO, I'm going easily to the chief platform, or to the one responsible for the infrastructure. And for my background, I had to learn how to add the layer more related to business aspects of it, so that I could talk easier and the right language to the CEO, to talk the right language to the chief marketing officer, and of course for the financial part as well. I had to learn stuff to talk the right language, the right person. But we kind of have to, because as a CTO you have to, and we have to connect the dots between all those elements.
So there's a learning curve. We have to do it. And it seems there's always something to be improved around it. Is there any particular advice you'd like to share, like something that you've seen working and you think it's useful for the audience in this regard?
Even if I like working remotely, and we all learn to do it, spending time physically with those people still makes sense, still worth investing, and doing it on regular basis is even more important. So I think even making a routine from it would be a good advice.
Good. Thanks for sharing that. Dear audience, I hope you've took notes about it. I'm going to one of my last questions from this section of very C technology specific for the role. So in terms of decision making, at the highest level of the organization, we tend to speak a bit less about efficiency. Like when we talk about efficiency, improving the flow, it's always about teams, operations, and things like this. But at the highest level of the organization, we don't necessarily limit the work in progress as we do when we do with the teams. We don't optimize the flow. We don't want to work necessarily in a very methodical way to optimize that flow. There's not always someone who's facilitating that work. And about that, how important it is for you to do this at the highest level of the organization, and if you have a particular advice about it.
Yeah, that's a very challenging question, and whatever advice I would present here would be first of all for me, because I feel like I'm covering so many topics, so that the focus is a big challenge, and when the focus is a big challenge, the efficiency is a big challenge as well by default. So for me, it's part of my improvement plan as well now is to decide which direction is more important, and it's more in which I should invest more time during the next period of time, and to make sure that on other areas I'm managing now, I have strong enough leaders so that I can focus on what should I do in the next period of time, and also asking for feedback from many people you are working with. It's always important, and also I'm always trying to connect to the company objectives, because when we are having a technology background, we may in some situations zoom in too much in some engineering aspects or product aspects or other aspects which may be interesting for us, taking into account our background. But doing a zoom out, seeing a global picture, checking once again how that's connected to the business objectives is helping. And I'm trying to do it also on a regular basis. And still a lot to do on it. So
let's stick around for a while. So you said about direction, the big challenge now. Is that something that is the first time it happens to you, or is it cyclical, like it gets back from time to time? So and then you improve, and then it's gonna become harder again, and you'll have to improve again. Is this something you do continuously, or this is the first time you feel like this is an interesting challenge?
it's a kind of, I would say, an iterative approach as well. So in each moment in time, of course, I'm doing the zoom out, trying to optimize things, to make my work more efficient, to realign with the business objectives. And afterwards, you see, we are doing our daily routine, and we have to check again if we are on the right direction. So for me, it's an iterative approach.
Okay. So, dear audience, it's not something that you solve once and that's it. It's gonna get back, and you're gonna have the same challenges in the same category, new challenges in the same category. So let me check. It seems like there is a question, a Q&A module. Can you give an example of a hard problem that you couldn't solve in your role?
I think I can write a book about it. So what I was a bit sharing earlier is, I'm tending to think about myself that, I'm used to think globally to optimize the system and all those stuff. And at the same time, I also fail in, making sure that I'm focused on what's the most important in each moment of time. So it's not by default on daily basis. The balance should be checked every day. So even if today I feel I'm good with this balance and I'm focused on what's the most important today, and tomorrow I'm doing the same and I'm okay, but I cannot, make sure that that's by default. So I have to recheck it again and again and again. Probably there is a, silver bullet around it. I didn't find it, and still seeking. And if you have some good advice, interested to to learn from you as well.
Yes, with
I
pleasure.
can
But
learn
this is
some
your session. This
comments.
is the,
Yeah.
with this occasion, I have the pleasure of stressing the guest and asking the questions. And but yes, there are ways we can improve, but we need to put them in context always. Huh? So uh,
Yep.
good. So you said about the challenge that you didn't manage to solve. Let's try a challenge, a very hard challenge that you solved.
Can write a book about it as well. So
Okay.
what maybe I'm very proud of the improvement we have made with, of course, with our team and with the entire organization on the recruitment part. So we've invested quite a lot in putting in place a data-driven approach to assess people. Of course, that required us to invest a lot in learning how to better mirror people experience, not just assess them. So we found different ways in mirroring the people experience, capturing this experience in a very pragmatic way, in a very structured way, and that helped us to build a tool to help people to self-assess and to see the experience. Based on that, to receive also some recommendations for learning. And of course, this is very useful for the community, and I like it. And at the same time, that's very, very valuable for the business because it optimizing a bit the time. So I really like such situations when we can find a big win-win. And in fact, it's a triple win because the customers are also winning from this because they are able to close quicker the positions they need, and this way to accelerate on their business roadmaps. So I really, really like such scenarios.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, let's go further to 360 degrees technology kind of questions. Quick question. Technology strategy is business strategy. How much do
Yeah,
you agree with that?
yeah, it's 100%. Yeah. In fact, now almost every relevant company is also a digital company. So you cannot isolate from the digital world. And by default, whatever you imagine on the real world of the business should be well projected in the digital part of it.
This is the third time you're saying something about relevant, staying relevant. When you said staying relevant, was it more like the company to stay relevant or the person career perspective stay relevant?
I'm thinking about the company. You see, now when we are talking about scaling, of course, you can scale using traditional methods and scale in a physical world with your product, but of course, relying on everything which is providing the digital world. It's much more interesting and easy to access. And of course, it's investing in this digital part is kind of straightforward, so we don't have to convince anyone. So that's why for me, everything related to the business and related to technology and digital part, so they are part of the same vision, same strategy, same roadmap, which is not that easy to implement. It's much easier to say, because it's not just tech versus business or tech and business. So when I say tech, it's much more than that. So you have application, you have infrastructure, you have security, and all of them may split in many other areas. So and it's always about people interactions as well. So we need to stay connected with all those people who make the difference in the directions of all the areas they manage.
Okay, nice. Thank you for the answer, dear audience. So one strategy, and it doesn't matter what department, what kind of leader, there should be one strategy for the company. We shouldn't confuse that. Not everyone has a strategy of himself, herself. Let's go forward. A new question here. Could you share insights into how your team ensures and maintains the quality of the services delivered? What strategies or methodologies do you prioritize to guarantee that the technological solutions align with both client expectations and industry standards? And how do you implement the culture of continuous improvement in this regard? It's a long question.
Wow.
I will recall it again. So could you share insights into how your team ensures and maintains the quality of the services delivered? I get to the next.
Yeah. In fact, probably you were in this situation as well. So we, the technology people, when we find a nice solution, we kind of want to sell it to everyone.
Yes.
That was the approach we tried many years ago, but it didn't work. So have a perfect architecture, having a perfect user experience and so on. It's working just in a perfect world, which is not our case. And in order to make it real, we've created such a nice tool to help align business, technology, product, security, and so on. So we've gathered many good practices from the industry per category, and we are using those good practices to talk with business in a very synthetic and easy way. So, and to make sure that whatever makes sense for the business is very well projected in what we are imagining on the technology part. So let's say for the business, having a secure application and infrastructure, it's important, or having a scalable solution is important. So we'll take this into account, and we'll explain what does it mean from the technical point of view, what are the good practices to be implemented, and of course, what's the cost behind, what's the impact on the planning. And based on all this, together we'll make a decision about our team organization, budget, and overall solution. So we call all those good practices maturity models. We're using them to assess the maturity of a specific practice, as well as to define a roadmap for improvement. And of course, to align on the expectations and talk the same language, business and tech.
So we've been a bit far in the answer, so it's like you've recalled everything I said the first time I've read the 5 questions in as a set. So I think you've covered the standards, expectations, but not implement a culture of continuous improvement directly. Can you say something about that?
Sure. It's also this question can be split in many aspects. If
Another
we stay
book.
on the if we'll stay on the technical part of it, I'm quite proud that our team created the mechanism to capitalize the technical standards from the industry. And it's also initially we started by managing it in a very central way, So just a group of architects were in charge of proposing technical standards and deploying to everyone. And step by step, we have made this process much more democratic so that now everyone in the company can come up and propose some good practices to become standards, to, with the right arguments and so on and so forth. And now, having this mechanism, we can, capitalize the existing knowledge in the company and kind of closing the loop, the ones who are proposing standards, the ones who are implementing, they are now part of the same community. And you see, the same approach is used at other levels as well. So with one-on-one discussions, with, there are many feedback loops depending on the topic. I started with the one which sounds more interesting for me today.
Okay. We've touched that. And about the industry standards, what can you say per industry? Not just IT, like the vertical.
Yeah, in fact, comparing to what we were using to do some years ago in Pentalog, now the know-how per industry is capitalized in a much more interesting way with Globant, because at Globant we have studios in charge of the know-how per different big industries, and that's helping us a lot to have a common ground between tech and business, and we are now able to not just think about some technical good practices in a generic term and to kind of propose them to everyone, but we know for each industry which one is more relevant, in which case it makes sense to insist more, and also at which stage of the business. So now it's much interesting, and it also makes more sense for the business. So we don't, we talk by default their language. Plus, we are able to better translate to technology and vice versa.
Great. Indeed, it's impressive, the studio. So for those who didn't have the occasion to look at them, go to Global site and check for studios, and you'll see the Reinvent Studios or Creator. It's amazing. So, but let's get back to the questions I have. Technical debt management, is that still relevant as a metaphor for you?
The topic itself, of course, it's still relevant, and maybe it's even more and more relevant. At the same time, I've seen many cases when using it and pushing it too much in front of the business kind of created bottlenecks. So that's why, by default, I don't encourage people to push the term itself to the business without the proper, awareness on this topic. I think the aspect should be treated in a very iterative way, and prepare people to this topic and explain a bit that beside the features, there are many other aspects to be taken into account, step by step, to explain how the technical decisions and product decisions are being made, to explain that in some situations we take shortcuts as product team, as development team, as business in general, and there is a price to pay eventually in time. So explaining it in a easy, nice way, and step by step incrementing the next iteration, providing a global picture or on what's it about or what's the the margin. So it's eventually between 10 and 15% from the overall spendings we have. And afterwards, doing one more increment and splitting it, providing a bit more details. So I think doing it in a in a appropriate way, it's very important, and it's even for me providing the right level of details incrementally could be in many situations, a very critical aspect of it. Without doing it, sometimes it's better not talk about it. So if you just come, let's say you are a CTO and you have a CEO which is more a business person, and you come up with a huge list of all kind of technical depths with all the details, and you say that all this would cost I know how many millions, it doesn't help at all. You would better not do it. That's why it's worth talking about it. It's definitely worth investing in managing it, but in a smart way. So it shouldn't be used just as a way to initiate some fear in the company.
It shouldn't be in a defensive mode. This is what you're
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go further with a new question from the audience. Does Pentalog refuse any projects? Oh, what kind of
What?
projects you don't do and why?
Yeah, in fact, we had some projects in the past which we refused. I probably not name any specific industries now because we don't want to put anyone in a bad perspective.
Let's avoid the political debates. Yes.
Yeah.
Is it
So
yes
of
or
course we
no?
had.
Is it yes or no?
Yeah. We had in the past such situations. So mostly, the criteria were related to our values, to our vision, and yeah.
Okay, good. So yes, but the industry would be not that interesting to speak about because that would open
Yeah.
critical
We
debate and we are getting forward from the CTO
yeah.
talk scope. I
And
have
we
another
respect
question.
everyone's business. We respect everyone's business. We just may decide that we are in the same directions with some of them or not, which is okay.
Okay, good. Let's go to DevSecOps. So the trend
Yep.
of shifting left security, doing that
Yep.
early, contributing from the security perspective with the team, along the team, on daily basis with security engineers. So first question is, how much do you appreciate this vision? The second question would be, how reasonable is that to expect from most of the teams? And the third question is, how much can we squeeze as activities in shift left? Because we've done with QA, with data, we are putting security, with ops. Something else is going to come. There's a limit to that. So let's take the first question. How much do you like that vision, DevSecOps?
In fact, for me, everything which is increasing the chance to deliver better quality, to deliver it quicker, at the correct price, it's a good direction. And DevSecOps for me seems to be well aligned with this direction because it's by default more automation. More automation, it's more efficiency. By default, is shift left, which means by default that people is more aware of security aspects of the product, meaning they may decide, may make very good decisions in these directions from the very beginning of the product development, which is cool as well. For me, the direction is kind of obvious, and it's not really new in terms of okay, the security joining DevOps was kind of new some years ago, but the idea itself of shifting left, many good practices, doing much more automation, doing stuff on a regular basis. It's kind of a direction we have took at the industry many, many years ago. We just invite more and more disciplines to the party.
Good. Let's go to the second part. What can you say about expecting that from most of the teams? Is that reasonable?
For me, the expecting this culture, yes, it's reasonable to work on improving the culture around it, making everyone aware of that's important, how it works, what are the best practices in this direction. For me, that's a must. Now, asking everyone to implement many of those good practices, maybe it's not that important, because for me, at the end, we should treat the team as an organism overall. So they should be cross-functional, and if they are on the same page with the same objectives, same roadmap, it's up to them to decide who is doing what. If someone, it feel better to do stuff on a front-end part, another one to configure something on infrastructure to improve the pipeline, that's good. We don't have to push everyone to do the same, as soon as they are on the same page.
Okay, interesting. And let's get to the next question. How much can we squeeze with the shift left philosophy? Like, we're gonna find much more interesting use cases. We talk about data ops. We are doing that for a while. Legal ops. Shifting that in a small team is going to become more and more difficult. It's like so many disciplines as a whole. What can you say about that? Do you think we've already touched those limits? Do you think we can still squeeze more? Should we stop doing that and find new ways?
I still see a lot of space in this direction, even if some good practices exist for many years now. That just remind the growth hacking approach. So it exists for many years, but still there are many situations when it would bring a lot of value to really put everyone around the common business objective, not just development objective, and to bring in the team all kind of skills we need, even legal, marketing, development, ops, whatever is needed to make the product usable for the end user. And our industry is not yet at the the level to make this a common practice. It's still a lot of space to improve. So
Let's say a new space like environmental stuff. Like
okay,
that's huge. Like how to do it more sustainable. Is that gonna have room if we say we have experts and we put them there? And do you think that on I don't know, mid-term, long-term, that's gonna happen? We're gonna have people, experts in sustainability joining the teams so that they can contribute at that level as early as possible?
in fact, of course, we would like to have all the skills in the team to deliver the product. At the same time, it doesn't make sense to imagine that we'll have all of them at the same time. So we still have to be smart about involving the right people at the right moment. For me, that's why having a kind of preparation of the development called in a different way, in different methodologies, but to have an initiation phase or a setup, it's still important, because during that phase we can imagine in which order we want to ask people to join the party. But overall, we want, of course, to make sure that whatever is important to be considered during the product development is put on the table at the right moment. If the right moment is at the very beginning when we are imagining the product, okay. If it's later on, it's okay as well, but it should be a decision, not by chance.
Okay, thank you. Now we have new questions here. I have to take a break for my my track. In your current positions, where do you think you have more influence and why?
Yeah, it sounds like a kind of political question. So I had the chance to contribute to many directions in the company. So to the product development, to the transition of Pentalog towards agility, governance of skills, technology office, and I see it mostly from this perspective. So, and I'm open, and usually I manage to make things happen in the direction which makes sense for the company. So today is related to technology, to services, to skills, governance, but it could be something different if it makes sense for the company.
Okay, thanks for the answer. I hope the audience had the answer they were seeking for. How do you measure the success of your technology initiatives in your client's business? This is a very easy question.
So for me, whenever it's possible, I would like to have the same way of measuring the success of any kind of initiatives. So if the product has a specific goal, for example, to increase the transformation rate, or it's related to whatever objective, all the technical initiatives or other kind of initiatives should serve the same objective and should be measured the same way. I hope it responds to the question.
I don't know, dear audience. For me, it makes sense. I would complement with a new question.
Yeah.
How do others perceive this value of the technology initiatives?
Okay. And this, on this topic, it really depends on the language we are using, and if it's adapted to the interlocutor, to the stakeholder or not. If you are talking with a business stakeholder and our language remains tech, we have very low chances to meet the expectations. We have very low chances to solve the real problem behind.
Yeah, that's a
If you
rule.
manage to be the
sure.
translator, yeah. If you manage to be the translator, and if you manage to also adapt, adjust our initiatives to the real needs, have more chances.
Yeah, about that. Because we've kind of skipped this question because it was touched from many angles already. So I said not necessarily urgent. But what about the translator role? So how much of your time, of your energy, of your activities, I'd really appreciate a percent or something, is acting as a translator? Like, here is something technical and we should vulgarize it. We should make it accessible for people who are less technical so that they can seize the opportunities or risks around it, or the other way around from the business. How can we do that with technology?
Yeah, so if you really want a percentage, I would say in my case, it's less than 10%. Depending on the business model, and it could be much more. For example, if we are talking about a product company who is creating a digital product and so on, of course, in this case, you'll do much more translation.
Because your peers
in my case,
your peers are
in my
also
case,
CTOs, CIOs. This is why you have to translate.
yeah. So my peers in many cases are CIOs, CTOs as well. People around me, many of them are also technology aware, and they have high level of technology culture. So that's why for me, around 10%, it's realistic, I think.
Good. in the event of a security breach on your clients or internal projects, how you assure that your team respond effectively and minimize damage?
It's quite a good question, and it would be even more interesting many years ago before having the CISO in the company. Fortunately, with Pentalog many years ago, we've hired the chief security officer, and of course, with his help, we've put in place all the necessary policies and mechanisms and teams. And now I kind of have to check what are the latest updates there, because it's not by default in my scope for now.
Okay.
So probably we have to invite the CISO also next in one of the next sessions.
To give us a precise answer there.
Yeah.
Let's go to another question. We can take maximum 2, and then I will ask you to say something to the audience. The one thing, the most important thing you'd like the audience to leave from this session with. Like an advice, something that you want to share with them. It's about future technology leaders, future CTOs, CIOs, engineering managers. But before going into that conclusion, how do you define your leadership?
Okay. Very strong question. In fact, I would say I'm adapting also my leadership style depending on the position I have at every moment in time, and depending on the challenges we face in this moment in the company. You see, there are situations when I like, being more the coach, asking questions, listening, empowering people, supporting, and so on and so forth. There are moments when I need to transform something and do it now. And I do not hesitate to switch and to make the message very clear. So when there is space to imagination, to debriefing, to new ideas, we are doing it. And when we have also time, you see, to do something which is impacting the culture and taking a lot of time, we are doing it. When we don't have time for it, I'm mostly switching to the pragmatic and very focused and objective oriented style.
Okay, interesting. So I'd say adaptable is one of the most important traits from what you said, huh? So
yeah.
Okay. And do you have anything in particular that you'd recommend to people who wonder about how can they improve their leadership? Is there a step that you've done and it was interesting and you feel like everyone should go through it, or training, a book, an activity, a mentor that you had?
What I felt helped me a lot is to connect to nice people, also interested in in that growth mindset, connecting to people willing to share, but also people willing to learn. And for me, learning in a team is much more interesting. And of course, all kinds of sources, books, video, and also physical interactions of all kind are useful. And also, I think I had the chance to be exposed to a lot of different contexts, a lot of new products, a lot of new businesses, and that's helping me a lot. So kind of targeting a challenging context would help as well.
You've done so great in terms of the way you answered as a speed. We still have time for another one, so I'm getting from the audience. Okay, what do you love about your job?
I think the most motivating part of it is that I'm able to have an impact. Now it depends on the direction I decide to invest my energy in. So in this case, to have a bigger impact or not, but to have an impact, for me, that's important for me. Sometimes the impact is mostly on the company culture. Sometimes is more related to the learning and to some specific individuals. And sometimes, it's more systemic, but having impact is important to me.
Having an impact. Great,
Yeah.
great. Okay. And the last question, what one-liner recommendation can you make for an aspirant for a CTO position?
So I would propose starting with a mirroring exercise, and eventually, there are many ways of doing it. One way of doing it could be also by using our self-assessment tool from Pentalog.com. If you have, some similar tools, it's useful as well. So mirroring, first of all, to see what are your experience versus the expectations of this company. And starting from this, you may decide in investing in one direction or another. For me, there is no ideal path. We should start somewhere, and it's good to start by seeing the expectations.
Vasile, the last minute.
Yep.
We are going to close very soon. One last thing that you want the audience to live with.
Okay. It's like, the final pitch. So I wouldn't do big motivational pitch around it. So what I would just share with you is the idea I have myself is that I think now it's really the right moment to think more about the developer's experience, about the development team experience overall, not just programmer, and to find the best way, the best tools to make them more and more efficient. So the same discussions as like, would AI replace a developer or not? But that's interesting. But the question could be also, would a good developer with AI tools replace another developer? This probably, it's easy to respond. So I would encourage all of you to invest in, improving the development team experience.
Improve development team experience. Thank you, Vasile. Thanks for your wisdom. Thanks for your answers here. See you the next time. And dear audience, thanks for your time. I hope you enjoyed it and see you at the next CTO Talk. Have a nice week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.